Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. It's great to see you here streaming with us on our Monday afternoon. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, where we are honoring the life and legacy of the late civil rights icon. So I want to take you through a little bit of what happened at the beloved community commemorative service. This is an annual celebration every year that we watch unfold here in Atlanta. And you're taking a look at video from Dr. Bernice King's speech earlier today. She spoke there at Ebenezer Baptist Church. And I'm just going to take you through. Some of you may have been streaming with us live as we carried the entire service, but I'm going to take you through an overview in case you're just catching up. Later on here within our live hour at 2 o'clock, if we have time, I'll let you listen to some of the speakers. But to give you an overview as to what some of the speakers talked about, this went on for at least 3 hours, and we heard from a variety of community, religious, and state leaders, also local leaders right here in Atlanta as they honored Dr. King's legacy. We heard about how one pastor talked about the call to nonviolence and how Dr. King was able to share his ideals through a message of peace and encouraging others to live to their highest ideals. We also heard from Reverend Sean B. Smith of New Horizon Baptist Church. He led the invocation and talked about how he specifically mentioned what can be done to help Atlanta's unhoused population and also immigrants. We heard from others who read from New Testament scriptures talking about loving your neighbor as yourself and also focusing on kindness. We also heard a prayer from Imam Shane Atkinson, who read from the Quran. We also heard from Mayor Andre Dickens here in Atlanta, as well as Senator Raphael Warnock. And we watched a video message from Governor Brian Kemp and First Lady Marty Kemp. So just a kind of an overview of some of the things we got to hear about today. Of course, Dr. Bernice King, Dr. Martin Luther King's daughter, spoke at length today, giving a little bit of a picture of her father's life and legacy, but also what she hopes to see in terms of how people can honor her father and make a difference in the lives of those around them. So we're going to continue to keep you updated on this. And like I said, later on at 2 o'clock, I'd like to give you a chance to listen in on some of these speeches that we heard earlier today. But for now, I'd like to focus on what is happening in our community today. You know, we've heard it said very often, today is a day on, not a day off, a day to serve others. So Ray Urena joins us live now. And Ray, I understand Hosea Helps and Delta Airlines teamed up to give back in the community. And judging all the activity around you there in Northwest Atlanta, it looks like it's still busy and going on.
It is still busy, and Ariel, and this festival started at 11 o'clock tonight, and it's going to run 11 o'clock this morning, rather, and it's going to run until 3 o'clock this afternoon. And Hosea Helps says that through this festival and this day of service, they expect to help about 350 homes across the state of Georgia. Now, the festival is also being held in honor of Reverend Hosea Williams's 100th birthday, as well as and is meant to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, during this day of service, Hosea Helps provided hot meals as well as family-sized grocery boxes, fresh produce, and school supplies. The organization also partnered with Grady Healthcare to provide free mammograms for people living in DeKalb and Fulton counties and free health screenings. Hosea Helps also screen people who need assistance with rent, utilities, and emergency hotel stays. And we just talked to a woman who came to Hosea Helps today about what the organization means to her. Take a listen.
It's very essential to the Atlanta community. They have been serving the community for years, and they have never forgot about the Atlanta community. Jose Williams was like a champion for the homeless and for his people. And so I feel that this organization has really helped the people of Atlanta.
And not only did Hosea Helps give out and help out with all these free services today, but they also raffled away a few prizes. We saw them give away a laptop, a Sony PlayStation console, school supplies. They also gave away those. So a lot of help going on with this festival, which, again, Ariel, runs until 3 o'clock this afternoon.
There's still some time, Ray. If someone's watching right now and they want to go out and participate, they can. I understand 350 families or so are helped by an event like this.
I'm sorry, can you repeat, Ariel?
Yeah, I know it's loud out there. I understand roughly 350 families are helped by an event like this. Is that true? Are there more or less?
Oh yeah, there was pretty long lines when we first got here. It kind of wrapped around the building over here, and it went inside. And when photographer Matt Stringer was here earlier today, the waiting room where they were having the health screenings, which is actually right next to where I'm standing, was filled with women and children just kind of waiting their turn. So definitely I could see that they approached that 350 household number earlier today that they mentioned.
And Ray, as a final question to you, if I want to help Hosea Helps or get involved in the mission, are there specific things they might need or ways that I could be of service?
Yeah, Ariel, Hosea Helps is always looking for volunteers, so your best bet is to contact them directly. I know that some people, when they had to come up for some of these screenings, like for rent and for utility, they had to pre-register before they got here. So just they put a little heads up out here for people that wanted there. But for anybody that wants to volunteer, Hosea Helps says that they're always looking for help, and just call them up and they'll guide you through that process.
Awesome. Ray, thank you so much for letting us know how we can get involved today. I'll let you get back to it. Going on for just about under an hour right now, till 3 o'clock. So good to see a lot of families in our community getting the help they need. Ray, thank you. Guys, we're going to move on here because I have a couple other stories to get to. I want to let you know what's happening locally today as well. One story, this is pretty crazy, and it involves a funeral director running back into a burning building to save the remains of people entrusted to his care. So let's get into it because this actually unfolded Sunday. A funeral home went up in flames, but thanks to the quick thinking of the funeral director, all of the bodies inside of that funeral home were removed safely. This major fire happened at the Cook Brothers Funeral Directors and Cremations in Broad Street there in Fairburn. And what officials are saying right now is that it took firefighters working through the night to contain the fire. Even the city of South Fulton sent in a truck to help out. But when that fire started, the owner of the business, Pastor Tamarcus Cook, ran back inside against the wishes of first responders because he wanted to rescue the remains entrusted to his care. He said, if I was not able to get those loved ones out of that facility, I would have been in there with them and amongst them. That's what he told us here at Fox 5. We know that the remains of 5 people inside that building were successfully removed before any damage was done. And one thing that we're seeing from this too is our reporters were able to talk to people who had loved ones inside of that facility. And one of the people actually told us his son had died 3 weeks ago and was inside that building when the flames started. And when the father learned that the funeral director went back inside, he was blown away. That father learned about the fire through Facebook and immediately rushed to the scene. And he said he was wondering if they were able to get his son out. But ultimately, that funeral director says that he watched the building he got in 2018 go up in smoke. And he says that in essence, he's lost everything that he has, but he's so grateful he didn't have to have the conversation of telling people that their loved ones didn't make it in a fire that destroyed his property. So we'll continue to keep you updated on this. At this point, though, the cause of the fire has not been released. Fire investigators are still looking at that. No injuries have also been reported, so that is good news. Over in Clayton County, I want to let you know that police are searching for who they believe to be an armed and dangerous teenager. Take a look at your screen. Police say that they've activated, technically Clayton County Sheriff Levon Allen says he's activated his fugitive squad to track down this 16-year-old suspect, identified as Laquan Stevens and wanted on multiple felony charges, including aggravated assault and criminal damage to property. Sheriff Allen says that additional felony charges could be pending against this teenager, and he says that if you see him or know where he may be, to call 911 immediately. But keep in mind, this is an ongoing situation. If we get any new information, we'll update you right here on Fox Local. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, another local story I want to let you guys know about involves a former DeKalb County superintendent being arrested on felony assault and child cruelty charges. You're taking a look at this former DeKalb superintendent, Devin Horton. He was arrested Saturday Saturday on felony charges of strangulation and child cruelty after a domestic dispute. This arrest adds to his legal troubles because he's already facing a 17-count federal indictment in Illinois for an alleged kickback and embezzlement scheme. One of the things to keep in mind through this, he was booked into jail around 1:30 Saturday this past weekend. Police say they responded to his home Saturday after a domestic call. Officers believe there was a verbal argument between Horton and his wife, and it turned physical, resulting in these charges. According to police, children were present when the assault happened, hence the child cruelty charges. He's still in jail according to records, but our Larry Spruill is following up on this story today, and we're hoping to check in with him at 3 o'clock on the status of this case. So I'll continue to keep you updated as that moves forward. Another story that as we move here nationally that I want to keep you guys abreast on involves the latest that's happening in Minnesota, because right now the Pentagon has put 1,500 active duty soldiers on standby in case the situation in Minnesota escalates. Those 1,500 active duty soldiers could be deployed to Minnesota. We've seen anti-ICE protests continue to escalate around the city. And one of the things that would have to happen for these soldiers to be deployed to Minnesota is President Trump would have to invoke the Insurrection Act, and that would be to quell those demonstrations. The Justice Department, meanwhile, is investigating an incident where protesters disrupted a church service. We know that demonstrations have moved from the streets, like you see now, to the pews in Minnesota. At least they did in this case, because a group of protesters went into a church service at a church in St. Paul on Sunday, and they entered that church because of a pastor's possible connection to ICE. The Justice Department says its Civil Rights Division is now investigating this. While the DOJ is looking into this church incident, it's not investigating the ICE officer who shot Renee Good on January 7th. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says her department has already reviewed the ICE officer's actions and determined he followed protocol. End of story. So with protests ongoing around Minneapolis, the Pentagon has, like I said, put 1,500 soldiers on prepare to deploy orders should things continue to escalate. Some congressional Democrats are now threatening to oppose Homeland Security funding over ICE agents' tactics. And last week, as you know, President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and call in active duty troops. For now, the president said he has not seen a reason to do this. If that changes, I will let you know. We'll keep you updated right here on Fox Local. But speaking of President Trump, I'd like to tell you something that he's focusing on this week, because President Trump is set to speak at the World Economic Forum. This is happening in Europe, and this comes amidst a complex picture with what's unfolding with Greenland, and of course even here at home, as a lot of Americans have voiced frustrations over the rising costs of goods and services and electricity specifically. So let's talk about that issue as you take a live look at the White House. President Donald Trump, like I said, is going to head to the World Economic Forum, and new polling data is showing that voters are frustrated with the economy and affordability, and that's a key focus heading into the midterm elections this week. Climate activists say the Trump administration's take on renewable energy could cost them more than they think in the upcoming elections this year for the midterms. Electricity bills have continued to rise as more AI and data centers have come online, and some activists say the White House's stance against cheap green energy could hurt the Republican Party in this year's midterm elections. So, for example, from January to October of 2025, the national average cost for electricity rose 12.8%, so almost 13%. Activist Bill McKibben says President Trump's resistance to renewable energy, including freezing major wind energy projects last month, may cost the GOP seats in Congress because wind and solar power prices have plunged globally. And he's pointed out that economically we compete in a world with China where they get a lot of cheap energy and we have to pay for really expensive energy. So it's a concern that he pointed out, at least. According to a new Wall Street Journal poll, voters are seemingly unhappy with the economy, viewing it as weak, and some think that President Trump is focusing too much on foreign affairs. The administration, though, insists Trump's economic policies benefit the United States. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that they've set these trade deals. It's good for the United States and it's balancing our trade deficit. deficit. Another issue, of course, weighing on voters is inflation. The president is supposed to speak about this at the World Economic Forum Wednesday, and we know affordability will be part of his speech as he talks there in Europe. But let's talk about what is unfolding in Europe, because Greenland, it continues to be something that leaders both here in the United States and in Europe are discussing heavily. We know that leaders in Europe held an emergency meeting over the weekend to talk about what's next with Greenland. President Trump has continued to ramp up pressure at this point, threatening new escalating tariffs on 8 European countries if the United States is not able to reach a deal to acquire Greenland. We know that European allies have been firing back. They've called this plan a mistake, even blackmails, saying that the President Trump, is undermining transatlantic relations. They held an emergency meeting on that issue Sunday. Denmark's foreign minister says they're trying to get President Donald Trump to abandon the idea that he has to own Greenland and explore a more diplomatic path forward. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte held a phone call with the president, saying they're going to continue to work on this. Saturday, President Trump announced he's going to be imposing 10% tariffs from the 1st of February, which will then rise to 25% on June 1st until a deal is reached to purchase Greenland. The president insists Greenland is critical for America's national security, and also the land is rich in minerals. Trump said the tariffs would affect any and all goods sent to the United States from countries like the United Kingdom, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, Finland, and the Netherlands. Those countries wrote back saying in a joint statement, "We stand in full solidarity with the Kingdom of Denmark and the people of Greenland, and we stand ready to engage in a dialogue based on the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity." Now, Greenland may not be known for protests, but they were happening in full force this weekend. Greenland is not for sale, according to some of the signs there at that protest in the country. Many Greenlanders just learning of the new European tariffs that the United States is threatening to impose if a deal isn't reached. We also know that a United States delegation to Denmark happened over the weekend, and that United States delegation included lawmakers here in the United States who believe that President Trump should back down. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, though, has defended the move, pointing to Greenland's growing strategic importance in the hemisphere. And Republican Ohio Congressman Mike Turner heads up the U.S. delegation to NATO's Parliamentary Assembly. He sees the president's point, he says, but he's also concerned about the attempted acquisition becoming a distraction. Turner has said he thinks the American people would rather the White House focus on the economy. So this is something we're going to continue to keep you updated on. But those 8 European countries that the president is targeting with tariffs, including Denmark, says this could be the start of a dangerous and downward spiral. I want to let you know about what is happening with the latest in Gaza, because at this point we have an update on the peace board that the president is taking new actions there, reportedly setting a cost for determining peace in the Middle East and who would potentially serve on President Trump's new Gaza peace board. So let's get into it, because reports say a draft document sent to 60 countries by the Trump administration reveals that members of the new Gaza Board of Peace should contribute $1 billion if they want their membership to be permanent. Now, without the contribution, memberships in the board would be limited to 3 years. President Trump has named himself chairman of this peace board of Gaza. Reports say the $1 billion would go towards the rebuilding of Gaza, eliminating large salaries and administrative costs. The board would include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, envoy Steve Witkoff, and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. Some countries invited to the board do include Hungary, India, and Vietnam. Important to note, the board does not have representation of the Palestinian Authority. But as this situation progresses, I'm going to keep you updated on anything new that we hear. Finally, guys, I want to let you know about where we stand with that visa freeze for 75 nations, because it starts this week. Specifically on Wednesday, the State Department is freezing immigrant visa processing for 75 countries. This indefinite pause is going to cover nations from Iran to Russia, Somalia, and Nigeria. And as we take a look at this freeze, the State Department memo first obtained and reported by Fox News begins Wednesday. U.S. consular offices are going to refuse immigrant visas to nationals from 75 countries. And the federal authorities say they have the power to do this under the public charge provision of the immigration law. A State Department spokesperson told Fox Digital in part, quote, "The State Department will use its longstanding authority to deem ineligible immigrants who would become a public charge on the United States and exploit the generosity of the American people," end quote. And the policy shift also follows a major fraud scandal uncovered in Minnesota, where investigators say taxpayer funds were sent to benefit programs and they were taken advantage of on a massive scale. The Trump administration says many of those involved in the scheme were Somali nationals. Once that pause begins January 21st, it will continue indefinitely until the State Department does a reassessment of its immigration visa processing, but Fox News reports that there will be few exceptions to this new policy. As we continue here, guys, I know it is freezing cold outside. I know a lot of you are watching us from all over, but if you're here in the Atlanta metro area, you might have seen some snow over the weekend south here of Atlanta, and there's potential for more cold winter weather effects to come our way this weekend. So we're going to chat with meteorologist Jonathan Stacy coming up next on Where We Stand. Welcome back in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with me on our Monday afternoon. It's cold outside. There's no way around it. And meteorologist Jonathan Stacy is giving us a look at what to expect and whether we could get another bout of winter weather.
Well, it's been chilly all day, and it will be chilly for the remainder of the day. You can see here that these temperatures not really climbing much. Although the numbers will get into the 40s, it will feel like it's in the 30s, and then by night we'll kick those numbers back down into the 20s. A chilly start to your Tuesday morning. Heading back to work and school, you'll find out we're around 25 degrees here in Atlanta tomorrow morning, and we'll look for 20s across the area. Frigid temperatures reaching up into the north, where you'll find some teens across the far northern tier. 14 degrees when you wake up tomorrow morning in Blairsville. Let's look out to the north and to the west. Look at these temperatures on either side of 20 degrees as you make your way west out 20 degrees there in Buchanan, going all the way up to Rome. Temperatures will be somewhere close to 19 degrees in Cedartown. As you look down to the south and to the west, you'll find temperatures around 24 degrees in PTC. Make your way down to 85, 23 there in LaGrange. The sobering news about tomorrow is that while it will be very cold to start, we will have to deal with the wind chill. The wind chill is still a factor today, not so much tomorrow. 24 degrees in Greensboro to kick off a Tuesday morning. Tuesday will provide a decent dose of sunshine once more. That sunshine really will not work for us as temperatures will climb out of the 20s into the 30s and into the 40s. I don't see 50s into the forecast outright. You can see here your high temperatures for Tuesday, 43 degrees, so a reinforcing shot of cooler air taking over. Some very chilly mornings ahead, 25 for Tuesday morning, 26 Wednesday, and then thanks to some overnight rain possibly going into Thursday, we'll start out around 37 degrees. We'll drop the numbers back down as we get into Friday, and then we'll hike them back up for Saturday going into Sunday, but they don't stay high for long, and it's still fairly chilly. It's just the indication of precipitation coming through during the overnight hours. Those numbers leading to the return of winter weather as moisture moves in. Potential return, that is. So we're paying attention to the forecast as we get into the next 6 to 8 day period, specifically for the threat of winter weather. Let's go ahead and take a look at it here. Everything is calm and cool and collect for the first part of the week, and then you can see some clouds will roll in sometime Wednesday. Those clouds will bring some showers late overnight going into Thursday. That front moves through, and then the temperatures, they punch us once more. They go down. By Thursday, clouds still around. Some moisture out there, but it's this big batch of moisture that we'll be watching. The way it comes in directly from the west could spell some trouble. As you can see here, a really large batch of wintry mix could lead to some issues in terms of travel, especially considering we don't know exactly what we're going to get. Some will get snow, some will get rain, but in between there could be a wintry mix that carries with it freezing rain, which could lead to the threat of ice. Okay, well, we got a lot to work through over the next 6 to 8 day period, and of course the Fox 5 Storm Team is watching every step of the forecast and will be walking you through. I know there'll be a lot of information out there online. However, if you want the most accurate information and information that is not hyperbolic, if you will, I think you can find it here. 45 today, 43 tomorrow, 50s coming back for the latter part of the week, joining in with some damp conditions. Temperatures step back for the weekend, and as those numbers fall below freezing, so enters the threat for some winter weather.
Oh, Jonathan, thank you for that. We are going to prepare accordingly. In the meantime, I want to tell you guys about what's happening winter weather-wise in other parts of the nation, because up and down the East Coast, people are digging out of some snow. As you can see, it looks like some people really did have a lot of fun, though. But several inches of snow coated the East Coast over the weekend. We know there were bitter cold temperatures at this point, and it's actually affecting millions across the country. If you've seen images from the Midwest, you have family in the Great Lakes region, upstate New York. They're definitely getting the winter feel at this point. A massive winter storm pummeled the eastern United States on Sunday, dropping as much as a foot of snow in some places. In Massachusetts, crews were out early Monday morning, clearing, treating the roads, and trying to dig people out. Temperatures have plunged to the 20s. Most of what was left on the ground snow-wise, water-wise, had frozen over, leading to slippery conditions. We also know that the snow dusted neighborhoods as far south as Florida, and even right here in Georgia. Some of you guys were sending your pics to us and showing us the snow you got, which was pretty incredible. But in the skies, this of course led to some headaches, because more than 4,100 flights were delayed and hundreds of others canceled on Sunday. With the storm over, millions of people across the country are now just facing those bitterly cold temperatures to start the week. But in the Midwest, forecasters say wind chills could fall as low as 35 degrees below zero and freeze snow to dangerous sheets of ice. Sounds miserable. Forecasters say temperatures are going to rebound here by the middle of the week, kind of like Jonathan was speaking about, but there is potentially more snow headed for the East Coast this weekend. So again, you can stay right here with us on Fox Local. We'll keep you up to date. In the meantime, I want to let you know where we stand with garnishments to the student loan program and where we stand in terms of your wages or tax refunds being potentially taken, because if you have defaulted on your student loan, loan and you're fearing your assets may be seized, you're going to catch a temporary break from the federal government. The U.S. Department of Education said last week, Friday, it's putting on hold to seize tax refunds. It's a plan they're putting on hold, or garnish the wages of Americans whose loans are in default and have reached the collection stage. The department says it's going to revise student loan repayment regulations, and they're trying to align them with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed in July of last year. The department says it wants to help student loan holders resume on-time payments with more clear and affordable options. Improvements to the loan system are going to be made before involuntary seizures, such as tax refunds and garnishments, begin again. So the One Big Beautiful Bill Act reduced the number of available payment plans for borrowers, and it allows for the waiver of unpaid interest for those who make on-time payments. Loan holders may also get a chance to rehabilitate any defaulted loans in the meantime as well. So if this applies to you, they're giving you an opportunity to try to get yourself back on track. I also want to let you know where we stand with a major poultry recall from Susanna's Kitchen. This is an Atlanta-based supplier, but they're issuing a major poultry recall across 7 states, recalling 13,000 pounds of grilled chicken breast fillets because of potential listeria contamination. The product was distributed to food service centers in 7 states, including Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. No illnesses have been reported, but officials are urging commercial kitchens to check their freezers and the lot code. You can see it right there on your screen. This is the lot code in question that could cause problems. But this is a Norcross-based food company, and it's issued a major recall for ready-to-eat grilled chicken breast after a third-party laboratory detected the presence of listeria bacteria. So definitely something to keep in mind. Other states that this was shipped to besides Alabama, Florida, and of course here in Georgia would be Missouri, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Ohio. So just keep that in mind. If you drive a Chevrolet, specifically a Chevy electric vehicle, Chevrolet is recalling some of its electric vehicles, new ones specifically. And this is over pedestrian sound issues. So let's get into it. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that 80,000 Chevrolet Equinox electric vehicles made in the 2025 and 2026 model years are being called back. And that's because the safety agency says that the Equinox EV pedestrian alert sound systems are defective. They fail to meet minimum sound requirements for hybrid and electric vehicles. And parent company General Motors says the pedestrian alert system may have an incorrect software calibration, meaning they won't produce sound at the required volume when they're traveling from stationary to 6.2 miles per hour. So pedestrians may have trouble hearing these electric vehicles and distinguishing whether they're speeding up or slowing down. And this, of course, if you're trying to cross the street or you're walking, you may not be able to hear this car as it approaches you. So that's the problem there. GM says it's going to make an update to the body control software provided by wireless technology, and they're going to have service teams look at this. No accidents or issues have been linked to this pedestrian sound systems just yet, but it is something that Chevy's keeping an eye on. And if you guys have ever been walking and you know how quiet an electric vehicle can be compared to a regular gas engine, this is the issue that they're saying that the car's just not loud enough for you to hear it. So they want to take a look at that. Another story I want to keep you guys up to date on involves a new study that says there is no link between Tylenol, or rather a pregnant mother using acetaminophen, and their child developing autism or ADHD. An international research team reviewed 43 studies and found there was no meaningful link between Tylenol use during pregnancy and ADHD, autism, or intellectual disabilities in children, as long as the medicine was used as directed. One study compared siblings from the same family. One was exposed to acetaminophen in the womb and the other was not, and there was no difference in neurodevelopment outcomes. The findings were published in the Lancet Obstetrics and Gynecology Journal. So a study to keep you updated there. Coming up, you guys, we're going to take you out to Lawrenceville. I want to keep you updated as our community continues to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day and this day of service. There's a parade unfolding in Lawrenceville this afternoon, so we're going to go visit our Chris Rosenthal and take a look and check out what's happening. Welcome in. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much for being here on our Monday afternoon. You guys, it is a day on, not a day off. We're checking out how many people in our community are serving others and showing up to honor the life and legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. So let's go out live to our Chris Rosenthal, who is in Lawrenceville, Gwinnett County. Chris, I understand there's a parade happening today and a celebration. You look all bundled up. What's going on?
Good. Yeah, it's a little cold today, and but this morning, that cold weather didn't keep people from coming out to the MLK parade here in Lawrenceville. That parade started at the Justice Center in Lawrenceville and made its way over to where I am now at Central Gwinnett High School, where we're having some sort of post-parade festivities. And I'll tell you, even though it was cold, there were a lot of people out celebrating, seeing the bands. And reflecting on Dr. Martin Luther King's message. And I'm here today with I got Zachary Pratt here. He is with the Urban Ebony Society, president. And talk to me a little bit about this parade. This is the 26th year you have done it. This year, tell me about the theme this year and what that means.
Okay, so my name is Zachary Pratt. I'm the president of the United Ebony Society. We're celebrating over 40 years as a organization here in Gwinnett County. However, this is our 26th year parade here in Gwinnett County. And we started at the Justice Center, Gwinnett County Justice Administration Center, and we end up here at Central Gwinnett High School. This year has been a wonderful turnout. We're so grateful for it. We're so grateful for the weather.
Yeah, and talk to me about the theme, Mission Possible 2. That was the theme this year.
So yes, this year's theme was Mission Possible 2, and that's all about uniting the community, and that's all building community and uniting the nation in a nonviolent way.
And you guys have done this for 26 years, and quite a bit of a turnout today, huh?
Yes, we had quite a bit of turnout. We had close to 1,500 registered parade participants, and that is somewhat of a medium number we've had in the past. I think it was due to the weather and also due to the fact that we actually had to cancel last year's parade due to the weather, the inclement weather. So this year is pretty much rebuilding, and we're grateful for having those that came out today and braved the weather.
What do you hope people took away from it today?
I hope they took away the sense of community. The sense of community and how important it is for us to continue to remember Dr. Martin Luther King and what he stood for, regardless as to your politics, regardless as to your race, regardless as to your status. Financially, it doesn't matter. It's all about, people from everywhere and from all colors. Doesn't matter. Dr. King, he was that man that wanted to unite the world, not just the United States, but people around the world. And I think that message did, resonate around the world. And people around the world, they celebrate too, not just here in America, celebrating this great civil rights, icon.
Definitely, and I'll tell you, people seem pretty united today. Gwinnett County, very very diverse county here. So definitely some people seem united today, coming out visiting.
Yes, for sure. Very much so.
All right, Zachary Pratt with United Ebony Society. Thanks for joining us, and we'll throw it back to you guys. Again, things are kind of wrapping up now, but there's still a little bit of some festivities going on here at Central Gwinnett High School.
Chris, great to know. Thanks for giving us this look. Understanding the parade's wrapping up, and there's the celebration happening now at Gwinnett High School, like you said. Do you know how long it goes until, or is it kind of just until people filter out?
Yeah, I think as people are filtering out, I think they're cleaning up a little bit now. But I think what was it go to about 4, give or take?
It's over.
Oh, it's over. It's over. Okay.
It's actually over. So just have a few vendors still shutting down and hanging out.
Okay, yeah, so it's over, but still a few vendors hanging out here. So
wonderful, cool. Well, thanks for giving us a look, Chris. We'll check back in with you at 3 and see where things stand. But good to know, and nice to see what's happening in Lawrenceville today. So thanks so much, Chris. Appreciate it. Okay, guys, we're going to move on here because I have some international news I want to keep you updated on. This is actually breaking out of Spain. We know that 39 people, at least 39 people, are confirmed dead and more than 150 others hurt after a high-speed train crash in southern Spain. You're looking at some of the images that we have gotten from this incident. Rescue teams are actually still searching for survivors, but it was a high-speed train collision that left dozens dead and, like I said, more than 150 hurt. It happened Sunday. The train was traveling from Malaga in southern Spain to the capital, Madrid, and it somehow went off the rails, jumped the track, and slammed into the train cars. Hundreds of first responders are now deployed to the area, but search and rescue efforts have been slowed by the terrain where the crash happened. As you can kind of see, there's a lot of rock and mountain that makes it a bit hard to get to. Officials say they don't know what caused this collision. They say it's extremely strange, and it happened on a straight stretch of track. All of the railway experts have been extremely surprised as they look at this. One Spanish official says the magnitude of the tragedy is unthinkable. The investigation is continuing, with the government saying the victims and their families will have the help that they need. But the Spanish Train Drivers Union said it warned the rail operator last August of severe wear and tear on the tracks, exactly where this accident happened. So it sounds like the union is pointing to wear and tear of the train tracks as a potential cause for this incident, but that is not the confirmed reason why yet. We'll continue to keep you updated if we get any official word, but as of now, rescue efforts are continuing. 39 people feared or confirmed dead and 150 hurt. I also want to tell you about a situation that unfolded in Pakistan, specifically the capital city of Karachi. There was a massive fire in a shopping plaza. You're taking a look at the aftermath of this heartbreaking video of rescue efforts continuing amidst the rubble. We know that a massive fire killed at least 23 people and has left dozens missing. Authorities in Karachi fear this death toll could rise. Workers have recovered more bodies from this heavily damaged building. Firefighters put out the flames Sunday, roughly 24 hours after that fire started at that shopping plaza. Family members of the missing waited outside the burned out building in hopes of hearing good news. Local officials say the government would give 10 million rupees, equivalent of $36,000 in compensation to the family of every person who died in the fire. So no word on what caused this, how this got started, but as we learn any new information, I'll let you know right here on Fox Local. As we continue, guys, coming up next, I want to bring you back a little closer to home as we take a look at some of the speakers who spoke at a service today at Ebenezer Baptist Church honoring Martin Luther King Jr., his life, his legacy, and what that means in today's terms. We're going to hear from some local and state leaders coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming with me here on your Monday afternoon. It is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. A lot of different organizations in our city paying tribute to the civil rights icon. And we got to watch a service unfold at Ebenezer Baptist Church earlier today. I'd like to let you watch some of the speakers from that service. We'll start with a video provided by the governor and First Lady of Georgia. And then we can listen to Mayor Andre Dickens as they reflected today during that service.
This is Governor Brian Kemp.
And I'm First Lady Marty Kemp.
On behalf of the state of Georgia, it is our honor to address you on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Each year, this occasion serves as a reminder of the incredible legacy that Dr. King left on our nation and world, and his commitment to peaceful civic engagement.
Dr. King's leadership changed the course of our nation's history, building a more just society, even in the face of violence.
We must never forget the work Dr. King and others did to confront injustice, and we can take this day to rededicate ourselves to making positive changes in our lives, communities, and nation.
Thank you for all you do to carry on Dr. King's legacy and mission as we keep working to promote liberty and justice for all through nonviolence.
God bless.
God bless.
They only gave me 5 minutes, and y'all took 15 seconds of it. To Dr. Bernice King and the entire King family, to Reverend Raphael Warnock and our faith leaders that are here today, Reverend Rice, Reverend Sharp, and of course Shirley Caesar, and to our elected officials. I see Reverend Warnock's partner and brother in the Senate, John Ossoff. We get behind you for this re-election, our brother. To the rest of our federal delegation, I see so many of our House of Representatives members here and our local leaders and all the elected officials that are here and all of our honored guests and just everybody that's got a good conscience. Good morning. I always consider it a profound privilege to represent the people of Atlanta here each January as we pause to remember, to reflect, and to rededicate ourselves to Dr. King's dream. This year's theme, Mission Possible 2, Building Community, Uniting a Nation the Nonviolent Way, is quite appropriate for these times. So much has changed since I last stood before you at this service. This past year has brought a wave of uncertainty and hardship for families in Atlanta and across this country. We watch as citizens and long-standing residents across our country are snatched off the streets, out of their homes, and from their workplaces. We see tariffs being used as a weapon, not as tools of fair trade. And we watch as these tariffs get passed on to all of us and drive up costs for working families. I don't even eat breakfast no more. My budget can't afford breakfast. Atlanta families are feeling the pinch. Inflation means that things that we must have, like groceries, gas, rent, etc., cost more. And health care, of course, now costs way more. And paychecks just don't go so far. You know who gets hurt the most? The very people that Dr. King called us to defend. Now, we knew change was coming, but many were not prepared to be hit this hard, including those who actually voted for this foolishness to occur in the first place. Naive, ignorant, or indifferent, here we are. They believe the lies, and they covered their eyes and their ears, forgetful of our history. But people of faith must not be divided now. The enemy always looks to divide and conquer. But the Bible tells us that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Psalms 133:1 reflects on how good it is when the people of God live together in unity. Now is the time when we need to be united. Make no mistake, our unity does not require uniformity. Our strength lies in our diversity and differences. And nobody knows this better than Dr. Bernice King, the King Center, and the people of Atlanta. We are bound by a shared commitment to justice, dignity, and the well-being of our neighbors. And here in our city, this is how we will meet this moment. We are building community and uniting a city. And we're doing it block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. We made real and measurable progress in my first term. Violent crime is down, and our supply of affordable housing is up. Yeah. We made historic investments in our young people. Now youth crime is way down, while graduation rates and scholarships are at the highest level they've ever been in the city's history. We're on the way up. We added more parks and green spaces. We got a $17.50 minimum wage, and we got fresh food in places that were food deserts, and now a AAA credit rating. All together, we are moving Atlanta forward. But there is much work that remains to be done. We can walk right out of Ebenezer, and we can see some of our neighbors sleeping on the streets. There is someone watching right now that has more month than money. And we will still have too many families barely getting by, living paycheck to paycheck. 2 children growing up in just 1 or 2 miles away from each other can have a 20-year difference in life expectancy. Imagine that, where a zip code can determine your destiny. That can no longer be accepted in Atlanta or in America. That city has been named the best place in the country to live, the best place to start a business, and the best place to start a career over the last 2 years. But now, 2 weeks ago at my inauguration, I reminded the audience of how David brought 5 stones to face Goliath. And now this city is facing its own persistent enemies. Poverty and inequality are our Goliath. And we are going into battle with our own 5 smooth stones. Investing in our neighborhoods, especially the underserved and disinvested places. Delivering more affordable housing. Creating opportunities for our young people. Continuing to prioritize the safety of our residents. And performing our duties while acting ethically and practicing sound fiscal responsibility. Thank you to our group project working in alignment. Our 5 stones are all high-yield investments that have paid substantial dividends. But just like David and with his Goliath, we will not rest until we have defeated our Goliath. The poverty and inequality that continues to plague parts of our city. That is how we intend to move Atlanta closer to Dr. King's dream of the beloved community. This is a mission made possible because we are no longer settling for business as usual. Dr. King said the time is always right to do what is right. Well, that time is now in the city of Atlanta. Dr. Bernice King, my sister, you are right. Mission possible. We can do this, and we will do this together. God bless you all. Amen.
You're listening to Mayor Andre Dickens as he delivered his speech at the service honoring the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. earlier today at Ebenezer Baptist Church. As we continue here within our 2 o'clock hour, I'd like to let you listen in on a few minutes from Dr. Bernice King. As we prepare for 3 o'clock, we're going to take a listen to a few moments to hear some of her remarks.
Thank you. Now, this is the day that the Lord has made. We ought to all rejoice and be glad in it. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so in this place. Hallelujah. You may be seated. On behalf of the King Center, I welcome you to the 2026 Beloved Community Commemorative Service. I want to thank all of my King Center staff and team and volunteers for all the work they put into bringing forth an extraordinary week of activities, including today's commemorative service and our community service project. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Love you deeply and dearly. Thank you, Ebenezer, for opening your doors, Pastor Warnock, once again to us. We gather in this sacred space again to commemorate the life, the legacy, and the liberating love of my father, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On what would have been his 97th birthday and the 41st observance of the national holiday, 41 years in.
You're listening to Dr. Bernice King as she speaks from Ebenezer Baptist Church. We're going to listen to her again at 3 o'clock as time permits. We are going to continue taking a look at some other stories here around Atlanta that affect you today. As we gear up for 3 o'clock, I want to let you know what we have on tap. We're going to be speaking with our Kevin Stewart about a story affecting a teenager and specifically an acid attack. I want to get an update on some local and national stories. And as we continue here, of course, it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We'll let you listen back in on some of the speakers during today's service as time allows. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We'll see you here at 3 o'clock. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for streaming with me here on this Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It is great to see you here with me live. We're going to reflect on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. a bit later on in our live hour. I'd like to let you listen to some speakers from today's service that unfolded at Ebenezer Baptist Church. But first, we're going to start with a pretty tragic, compelling story out of Villa Rica. A middle school fight has led to allegations of bullying and has put one child in the hospital with severe burns. Kevin Stewart joins us live from Villa Rica, where this all unfolded over the weekend. And Kevin, this just sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, this is tough. And fortunately, I can tell you that 14-year-old is back at home. She's no longer in the hospital. She ended up going to Tanner Medical Villa Rica and then down to Grady. And they were told, her family was told, that she had 2nd and 3rd degree burns. This is a fight that, well, kind of an old school fight. Was supposed to be with hands. We're talking about a bullying allegation here that's been going on for some time, I understand. But it went to the next level this past Saturday afternoon, and you see the video. Apparently some type of liquid that burned, the mom referred to it as a chemical, was thrown on her child, and you see the burns that are on her neck and the top of her back and along her shoulders. A very painful situation for this child. She says that this has been going on for about 6 months, this bullying here in Villa Rica, and it's not just here in the neighborhood, but actually goes back to Villa Rica Middle School, where they all go to school. And she says she's tried to address this with the school, but has not had much success. I want you to take a listen to her mom, Aspen Clark.
For our kids to never place your hands on anybody, but also defend yourself at the same time. So in this situation, the kids continue to come out here in the subdivision and arborists to bully and to pick, even knocking on my door. And at this point, I think what happened, it made it escalate because she had to defend herself. She felt like she needed to defend herself because she couldn't walk away because it was too many. She wasn't a threat to the other girl. At this point, she was just on standby. As you can see in the video, once the fight started, that's when the little girl got the mug and she splashed it on her. So she was never a threat to that little girl.
All right, now that, again, what was in that mug, some type of chemical, she alleges. She says that based on what medical personnel told her at 2 major hospitals in our area. So this is something that we're going to continue to follow. We've checked back with police who actually have obtained video that's been circulating on social media. Maybe you've seen it. The mom was shown that video, and she forwarded that over to police, and they are investigating. But again, this is a story that we will continue to follow. Ariel?
I have so many questions run through my head, which is, first of all, where does someone even get acid or chemicals for an attack like this? Like that, I mean, I'm sure that's something investigators are looking into, but you just think about, as you described, it was supposed to be an old-fashioned fight, and it's like, are those days behind us? Is this what people are fighting with these days, what kids are using?
Yeah, I talked to the mom and I said, let's be honest, kids are going to fight. Not that anyone wants to condone fighting or anything like that, but usually how we used to think of fights, and it depends on how old you are, how even more likely this was, but sometimes we used to just be a hand fight. We just fight with our hands, and whoever wins, that's the end of it. But now you have examples of people taking it that much further. Thank God there was no weapon like a gun, but the fact that the mom says she believes there was some type of a chemical in hot water or something along those lines, and it was thrown on her. And she says that her daughter actually received a message from one of the alleged assailants that said, "Now you're burning," something to that effect.
Awful, Kevin, just horrible. I mean, it's a new age, especially with social media too, which makes all of this the more insidious. Yeah. And the idea that there's a video circulating on social media potentially of this attack that the mother was able to find and see. I mean, it hurts my heart that that's a part of the equation, but maybe this video will give some clues as to who's responsible for this.
Yeah, and that's something else that we did talk about, and I think, again, a generational thing here. Many young people put a lot of stuff on social media, which does allow people to track these things, and obviously police do have that video and are looking at that video and are checking all of this out to see how this began and to see if there will be any charges in this case.
And Kevin, you said that no one has been arrested for this just yet, but investigators are looking at it.
That's right. That is right.
And the mom voiced concerns about bullying to her school district.
Yeah, that is something else that bears following up on, because obviously today being a holiday, we can't get any comment from the Carroll County school system. But yes, she says that she has gone to administrators at Villa Rica Middle School, tried to get a meeting with parents to try to see if they can work this out, and it hasn't gone anywhere. She hasn't seen any satisfaction. That's why she's so disappointed that this happened. And you heard in the soundbite that we just played that she says, hey, I teach my children not to fight unless someone fights them, to defend themselves. And now she's feeling kind of awkward about that whole situation, how the fight and all the middle school drama ended up someone attacking her child allegedly and throwing something as dangerous as what may be a chemical or something super hot that burned her skin.
Yeah, Kevin, you know, I mean, how do you defend against that kind of attack? Just awful. Real quick, some people in our TikTok comments are asking where this unfolded. So if you're streaming with us, we're in Georgia, and Villa Rica is the town where this unfolded. And what county is Villa Rica in, Kevin, for those asking?
We're in Carroll County. We're actually very close. Villa Rica, part of it is in Douglas County, part of it is in Carroll County. We're actually off of Villa Rica Mirror Lake Parkway, which is the Cleghorn Anderson neighborhood, which has been another controversy all to itself with some development here. But that's where we are. This is a new complex here, as Villa Rica is a fast-growing area in our area.
Okay, awesome. Kevin, thanks for clearing that up. And for those of you streaming with us, hopefully that answers your questions. Kevin, I'm going to let you get back to information gathering. I appreciate the conversation today and absolutely hope this family can get some answers. So thanks so much for joining us live. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to another story here. This is actually a happy one, so maybe you'll be glad to see this, because a funeral director really risked his own life to save the remains of those who'd passed on inside of his own funeral home after a fire. You're taking a look at some of this video from the weekend. A funeral home went up in flames on Sunday, but thanks to the funeral director's quick thinking, all of the bodies inside of that funeral home were removed safely. This major fire happened Sunday at the Cook Brothers Funeral Directors and Cremations on Broad Street in Fairburn, Georgia. All remains were successfully evacuated and moved to a secure secondary location, but officials say this blaze started there Sunday afternoon. Fairburn firefighters worked through the night to put the fire out, and they even needed help from South Fulton, who sent in a fire truck to assist. They remained on the scene through Monday morning. But one thing to keep in mind with all of this is that as that fire broke out, the owner of the crematorium and funeral home, Pastor Tamarcus Cook, ran back inside the building against the wishes of first responders to try to save the remains that had been entrusted to his care. He said if he was not able to get back inside of that facility, he would have been in there with them and amongst them. The remains of all 5 individuals who were in that building were successfully removed before any damage was done. One man whose son had died 3 weeks prior, his son's remains were inside of that building, and he said he learned about the fire on Facebook and rushed to the scene to try to figure out what happened. And he was wondering if they were able to get the remains of his son out. And when he heard that Pastor Cook was able to do that, he was really happy and very thankful. But one of the things that the pastor says is that, quote, while I have in essence lost everything I have, I'm so grateful I didn't have to have the conversation tonight that your mother was destroyed in a fire that destroyed my property. And that's what the pastor told us here at Fox 5. So no injuries were reported. Absolutely wonderful news there. The cause of the fire is under investigation. We don't know what started it, but it is out at this point. Another story I want to keep you guys updated on here locally is that a manhunt is underway in Clayton County, and it's led Sheriff Levon Allen there in Clayton County to activate his fugitive task force, his fugitive squad, to track down this 16-year-old suspect described as armed and dangerous. You're taking a look at Laquan Stevens there on your screen. He's wanted on multiple felony charges, including aggravated assault and criminal damage to property. The sheriff did say that additional felony charges are pending against the teenager, but he's 16 years old, and the Clayton County Sheriff's Office is warning people to be extremely careful. They say if you see this teenager, know where he may be, call 911 immediately. While Sheriff Allen has not specified the assaults that this teenager's wanted for or what the additional charges may be, he just has said that the teen is armed and dangerous. So we'll continue to keep you updated if we learn any new information. But I want to take you to another story that we have been following here, because a former DeKalb County Superintendent, Devin Horton, is now facing charges of felony assault and child cruelty. And our Larry Spruill's been following up on the legal process with this story and the latest. So Larry, thanks so much for joining us live. Can you tell us where this case stands and what you learned today?
Well, Ariel, so we just finished a court hearing, a first appearance hearing from about 1 o'clock that Horton appeared. He faced a judge, so he is facing two charges. So the first charge is aggravated assault, an alleged aggravated assault on his wife, and then the second charge is cruelty to children. Now, all of this happened on Saturday, this past Saturday, at his home. Police responded to a domestic situation involving Horton and his wife. So today he appeared in front of a judge for that first court appearance. And what was surprising about all of this is that his wife actually asked the judge to grant him bail. She says that he was very nice, that she was never threatened at all throughout this entire situation. Of course, the judge took in a consideration that he did not have any criminal history here in Georgia, but he is facing those two cases, those FBI cases in Illinois that we have been reporting extensively about. So a judge did take that into consideration, but we were inside that courtroom, several reporters and I, and we were actually shocked that his wife spoke on his behalf, because she is the victim in all of this situation. And so she did speak, and she asked the judge to grant him bail, and she also asked him to allow Horton to return home. She says that he is a big part of their family, and that she wants her children to have him as well. So that was a very interesting testimony. Now we just wrapped all of this up, so I'm unable to give you that sound, but we will have that sound coming up at 4 o'clock on Fox Local as well. So we're diving into this, but a judge did issue him a $25,000 bond, $20,000 for the first count, which again is aggravated assault, and $5,000 is for that cruelty to children charge as well. So he also has to turn in any weapons. He can't buy any weapons while he's on bond. He also has to make future court appearances as well. So again, $25,000 bond that he was issued from that judge. We're going to unfold all of this, and we'll have more on Fox Local at 4 o'clock. Ariel.
Larry, thanks so much for breaking this down and explaining what unfolded in the courtroom today. I really appreciate it. One thing I understand is that the reason he's facing those child cruelty charges is because this alleged assault happened in front of his children. Is that correct, according to what you know from court documents?
Yeah, so his 5-year-old kid allegedly was in the room and saw this unfolded. His second child was in the house, but not nearly able to witness that situation. So that's where those child cruelty charges come from, because his two kids were inside the home, but the 5-year-old child was the one who allegedly witnessed this alleged assault on his wife.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And then as we look at this too, I mean, you had mentioned this is kind of some of the first legal woes we're seeing for this former superintendent here in Georgia, but he does face a 17 count, and I'm looking at my notes here, a 17 count federal indictment in Illinois for an alleged kickback and embezzlement scheme. And I know we've been covering that here extensively at Fox 5 Atlanta, but it is interesting to see that while that saga unfolds in Illinois, now we have this other legal kind of situation unfolding now here in Georgia as well.
Yeah, so the judge did say, because of his lack of criminal history here in Georgia was really the main reason why he issued that bond. He did speak about those charges, or the prosecutor did speak about those charges that he's facing in Illinois, and she mentioned that it was just as recent as back in October of last year, which we have reported on extensively, and really that's really the main reason why he was released from his duties as the superintendent here in DeKalb County. County as well. So a lot is going on in this saga, and many people that I saw online I've been speaking with are calling this a soap opera, a very interesting situation. But again, today the big thing was his wife testified on his behalf and she defended him. So I am going through all of that testimony, going through that sound, and I'll have another live report coming up at 4 o'clock.
Larry, thanks so much for all of your hard work on this story. Interesting to hear the community members describing it as a soap opera. I can see why. But as we continue to watch this unfold, I know you're going to keep us updated, so we'll check back in with you here later on this afternoon. Thanks so much for your time today. Okay, guys, let's move here nationally, as I want to keep you updated on the situation that continues to unfold in Minnesota, because at this point, the Pentagon is putting 1,500 active duty soldiers on notice that they could be deployed to Minnesota, Minneapolis specifically, if anti-ICE protests there escalate or continue to get worse. We do know that protests have continued around Minneapolis, and President Trump could invoke the Insurrection Act to quell demonstrations, which would send active duty soldiers there to the city. But meanwhile, the Justice Department is investigating an incident where protesters disrupted a church service. So we saw demonstrations move from the streets to the pews in Minnesota when a group of protesters entered a St. Paul church service on Sunday because of a pastor's possible connection to ICE. Now, the Justice Department says its Civil Rights Division is investigating. While the DOJ is looking into this church incident, though, it's not investigating the ICE officer who shot and killed Renee Good on January 7th. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says her department has reviewed the ICE officer's actions and determined that the agent followed protocol. With protests ongoing around Minneapolis, the Pentagon has given up to 1,500 soldiers prepared to deploy orders should things continue to escalate. And some congressional Democrats now are actually threatening to oppose funding for Homeland Security over ICE agents' tactics. Last week, President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and call in active duty troops. But as of now, the president has said he doesn't see a reason to use it at this current moment. If that changes, you're going to know about it right here on Fox Local. But speaking of President Trump, I want to let you know about something that's happening this week, because President Trump is set to speak at the World Economic Forum in Europe. You're taking a live look at the White House as we unpack this. New polling shows voters are growing frustrated with the economy and affordability. It's something we continue to talk about, and it's a key focus point heading into the midterm elections this year. Some climate activists are saying that the Trump administration's take on renewable energy could cost them votes in the midterm elections, because electricity bills have continued to rise, especially as AI data centers come online. And some activists say the White House's stance against cheap green energy could hurt the Republican Party in the elections. From January to October of last year, the national average cost for electricity rose close to 13%. Activist Bill McKibben says President Trump's resistance to renewable energy, including freezing major wind energy projects last month, may cost the GOP seats in Congress, because wind and solar power prices have plunged globally and we can't compete, he says, in a world where China is getting a lot of this cheap energy and the United States is refusing to use it. According to a new Wall Street Journal poll, voters are seemingly unhappy with the state of the economy, viewing it as weak. Some voters think that the president's focusing too much on foreign affairs and not enough here at home. However, the White House does insist that Trump's economic policies are good for the United States. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said that they're balancing the trade deficit with the president's current economic policies. And another issue weighing heavily on voters' minds is inflation. The president is going to address that, we expect, when he speaks at the World Economic Forum on Wednesday. So we'll keep you updated as that progresses. But in the meantime, I want to let you know where we stand with Greenland and the unfolding situation with Denmark, because as of now, European leaders are met over the weekend to discuss the situation. And as of now, Britain's parliament has leaders discussing this in the House of Commons right now, debating Arctic security. President Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on 8 European countries if they don't get on board with his plan to acquire Greenland. We know that emergency meeting with European leaders was held Sunday. Denmark's foreign minister says they're trying to get President Trump to abandon the idea that he has to own Greenland and instead explore a more diplomatic path forward. NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte held a phone call with President Trump saying they're going to continue to work on the issue. On Saturday, the president announced he's going to impose a 10% tariff on the 1st of February that would then rise to 25% tariffs on June 1st until a deal is reached to purchase Greenland. The president insists it's critical for America's national security to acquire Greenland and that the land is rich in minerals. The president also said tariffs on any and all goods sent to the United States would hit the United Kingdom, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, Finland, and the Netherlands. A lot of countries have fired back, calling this blackmail. Greenland may not be known for protests, but you are taking a look at video from over the weekend when a lot of protesters came out in full force, some holding signs that say Greenland is not for sale. They had just learned about the president's threat of new European tariffs. And this also happened while a United States delegation went to Denmark. Some of that delegation did include lawmakers who say the president should back down. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been defending the White House's move. As you might imagine, he is with the administration and supporting their policies. But one of the things he pointed out is that Greenland is growing in strategic importance in the region because of its natural minerals. Republican Ohio Congressman Mike Turner heads up the U.S. delegation to NATO's Parliamentary Assembly. He sees the president's point. He says he gets the national security argument, but he says he's also concerned about the acquisition becoming a distraction from issues here at home, and he believes the American people would rather the White House focus on the economy. The 8 European countries that President Trump is targeting with tariffs say this could be the start of a dangerous downward spiral. So it's absolutely a situation we'll keep you updated on here at, as we follow the latest in the Fox 5 newsroom. In the meantime, President Trump is taking the next steps in terms of peace in Gaza, and he's reportedly setting a cost for determining peace in the Middle East and who would serve on his new Gaza Peace Board to influence it. Reports say a draft document sent to 60 countries by the Trump administration reveals that members of this new Gaza Board of Peace should contribute $1 billion if they want their membership on that board to be permanent. Without the contribution, memberships on the board will be limited to just 3 years. President Trump has named himself chairman of the board, and reports say $1 billion would go towards rebuilding of Gaza, eliminating large salaries and administrative costs. The board will include former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Envoy Steve Witkoff, and President Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. Some countries invited to the board include Hungary, India, and Vietnam. The board does not have the representation of the Palestinian Authority. And really quickly, guys, I want to let you know where we stand with a freeze on visas for 75 nations, because that does start this week. The State Department is freezing immigrant visa processing for 75 countries starting this Wednesday. And this indefinite pause is going to cover nations from Iran and Russia to Somalia and Nigeria. And according to a State Department memo first obtained and reported on by Fox Digital, this is going to involve U.S. consular officers refusing immigrant visas to nationals from these 75 countries, as the feds say they have the authority to do this under the public charge provision of immigration law. A State Department spokesperson says, quote, the State Department will use its long-standing authority to deem ineligible potential immigrants who would become a public charge on the United States and exploit the generosity of the American people, end quote. Now, the policy shift also follows a major fraud scandal uncovered in Minnesota. Investigators say taxpayer-funded benefit programs were taken advantage of on a massive scale, and the Trump administration has said many of those involved in the scheme were Somali nationals. Once the pause starts on January 21st, it's going to continue indefinitely until the State Department completes a reassessment of its immigrant visa processing. Fox News reports that there will be no exceptions to this new policy, so we'll keep you updated as this unfolds. But meanwhile, a little closer here to home, if you're in the Atlanta area streaming with us live on your Monday afternoon, I want to let you know where we stand weather-wise. Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy is going to break down the potential for more winter storms like the one you saw last weekend and whether they could happen again this weekend coming up. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. It's great to see you here. Meteorologist Jonathan Stacy's tracking the potential for more winter weather this weekend. If you step outside, it feels cold. He's going to break it down.
Well, it's been chilly all day, and it will be chilly for the remainder of the day. You can see here that these temperatures not really climbing much. Although the numbers will get into the 40s, it will feel like it's in the 30s, and then by night we'll kick those numbers back down into the 20s. A chilly start to your Tuesday morning. Heading back to work and school, you'll find out we're around 25 degrees here in Atlanta tomorrow morning, and we'll look for 20s across the area. Frigid temperatures reaching up into the north, where you'll find some teens across the far northern tier. 14 degrees when you wake up tomorrow morning in Blairsville. Let's look out to the north and to the west. Look at these temperatures on either side of 20 degrees as you make your way west out 20 degrees there in Buchanan, going all the way up to Rome. Temperatures will be somewhere close to 19 degrees in Cedartown. As you look down to the south and to the west, you'll find temperatures around 24 degrees in PTC. Make your way down to 85, 23 there in LaGrange. The sobering news about tomorrow is that while it will be very cold to start, we will have to deal with the wind chill. The wind chill is still a factor today, not so much tomorrow. 24 degrees in Greensboro to kick off a Tuesday morning. Tuesday will provide a decent dose of sunshine once more. That sunshine really will not work for us as temperatures will climb out of the 20s into the 30s and into the 40s. I don't see 50s into the forecast outright. You can see here your high temperatures for Tuesday, 43 degrees, so a reinforcing shot of cooler air taking over. Some very chilly mornings ahead. 25 for Tuesday morning, 26 Wednesday. And then thanks to some overnight rain possibly going into Thursday, we'll start out around 37 degrees. We'll drop the numbers back down as we get into Friday, and then we'll hike them back up for Saturday going into Sunday, but they don't stay high for long, and it's still fairly chilly. It's just the indication of precipitation coming through during the overnight hours. Those numbers leading to the return of winter weather as moisture moves in. Potential return, that is. So we're paying attention to the forecast as we get into the next 6 to 8 day period, specifically for the threat of winter weather. Let's go ahead and take a look at it here. Everything is calm and cool and collect for the first part of the week, and then you can see some clouds will roll in sometime Wednesday. Those clouds will bring some showers late overnight going into Thursday. That front moves through, and then the temperatures, they punch us once more. They go down. By Thursday, clouds still around. Some moisture out there, but it's this big batch of moisture that we'll be watching. The way it comes in directly from the west could spell some trouble. As you can see here, a really large batch of wintry mix could lead to some issues in terms of travel, especially considering we don't know exactly what we're going to get. Some will get snow, some will get rain, but in between there could be a wintry mix that carries with it freezing rain, which could lead to the threat of ice. Okay, well, we got a lot to work through over the next 6 to 8 day period, and of course the Fox 5 Storm Team is watching every step of the forecast and will be walking you through. I know there'll be a lot of information out there online. However, if you want the most accurate information and information that is not hyperbolic, if you will, I think you can find it here. 45 today, 43 tomorrow, 50s coming back for the latter part of the week, joining in with some damp conditions. Temperatures step back for the weekend, and as those numbers fall below freezing, so enters the threat for some winter weather.
Information on the weather that is not hyperbolic. I like that, Jonathan. So yeah, we're going to continue to keep you updated as our chances for winter weather do progress. But in the meantime, I want to let you know where the East Coast stands, because we were caught up in this in South Georgia. You're taking a look at the aftermath as the East Coast faced several inches of snow over the weekend. And as of right now, bitter cold temperatures continue to affect millions here across the country. The massive winter storm hit the eastern United States, dropping as much as half a foot of snow in some places. In Massachusetts, crews were out early Monday morning clearing and treating the roads, and then temperatures plunged into the 20s. Much of what was left of that moisture froze over, creating some dangerous and slippery conditions. The snow also dusted neighborhoods as far south as Florida and here in Georgia, forcing many to take it slow as they traveled over the busy holiday weekend. In the skies, we saw more than 4,100 flights were delayed and hundreds of others canceled Sunday. And though this storm is over, millions of people across the country are now facing these bitter cold temperatures to start the week. In the Midwest, forecasters say chills could fall as low as 35 degrees below zero. That wind chill factor, just incredible. And it could also freeze snow to dangerous sheets of ice. One thing to keep in mind is temperatures could rebound in the middle of this week, but we are tracking the potential for more winter weather this weekend, so we'll keep you updated. But in the meantime, I want to let you know where we stand in terms of your student loan debt if you have defaulted on it, because the federal government is giving you a temporary break. If you've defaulted on your student loan and you fear your assets may be seized, here's what you should know. The U.S. Department of Education said just last week on Friday it's putting on hold its plans to seize tax refunds or garnish wages of those Americans whose loans are in default and have reached the collection stage. The department says it's going to start revising student loan repayment options in order to align them with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that passed July of last year. The department says it wants to help student loan holders resume on-time payments with more clear and affordable options. Improvements to the loan system are going to be made before involuntary seizures such as the seized tax refunds and garnishments begin again. So don't think you're off the hook. Just know that they're offering a variety of options and giving you time to figure out what those are. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act did reduce the number of available payment plans for borrowers, but it allows for the waiver of unpaid interest for those who make on-time payments. So that's a big piece of information there. Loan holders may also get a chance to rehabilitate any defaulted loan in the meantime as well. So just keep that in mind. I also want to let you guys know about a major recall as it applies to chicken. This Georgia-based facility, Susanna's Chicken, has issued a major poultry recall across 7 states. And this is because a third-party laboratory detected the presence of listeria. So this Norcross-based food company has issued this major food recall. It applies to ready-to-eat grilled chicken breast fillets, and it applies to 13,000 pounds of grilled chicken breast. You can see the lot number that's in question here. That's considered to be the potential problem. The product was distributed to food service centers in 7 states, including Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. We haven't received any reports of illnesses, but officials are urging commercial kitchens to check their freezers for this lot code and make sure that if they have this meat to throw it out. Besides Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, Missouri, New Hampshire, North Carolina, and Ohio also received this chicken. Also, if you own a Chevy Equinox, I want to let you know about a recall that Chevy is doing on some of its vehicles because they believe it is too quiet. Allow me to explain. So the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says that 80,000 Chevrolet Equinox electric vehicles made in the 2025 and 2026 model years are going to be called back. The safety agency says that the Equinox EV pedestrian alert sound systems are defective. They aren't loud enough to meet the minimum sound requirements for hybrid and electric vehicles. So parent company General Motors says the pedestrian alert systems may have an incorrect software calibration, which means they won't produce enough sound at the required volume when they're traveling from a stationary standpoint to up to 6.2 miles per hour. So pedestrians may have trouble hearing these vehicles and being able to distinguish whether they're slowing up or slowing down or speeding up under some conditions. And of course, if you're a pedestrian, you want to be able to hear when a vehicle approaches you. So GM says it's going to make an update to the software, and it's going to be done by dealerships service teams. No accidents or issues have been linked to these pedestrian alert sound problems, but we're just keeping you updated right here. This is what General Motors says, that they're going to recall some of these vehicles. So just keeping you up to date on what we know. As we continue here, you guys, we are going to take a look at some ways that our community continues to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When we come back, we're going to check out a day of service that unfolded in Fulton County and how community members are giving back. That's coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt, and it's a pleasure to have you here streaming live with us on our MLK Day. We understand over 200 people volunteered at nonprofit Christian City here in Fulton County. They were giving back, and we have Tara Jabor here with us to break down what they were doing. So, Tara, tell me, nonprofit Christian City, over 200 people volunteered. What was happening today?
Yeah, well, it was definitely a very cold day to volunteer. So people were trying to stay inside a little bit more, but Christian City is this nonprofit in Fulton County. And so people are doing a variety of things. They have housing for older people. They also help house some younger kids as well. So people were helping the people that live in that residential area. So they were moving furniture for some old people inside of a house. They also were just doing little tasks that they need, like fixing their laundry machine or helping them like sweep up things around the house. So it was really nice to see people helping others, especially on this federal holiday where it obviously means a lot to these people. But they also have a thrift store there. And so people were organizing donations and they were sorting through the clothes, hanging them up. And one really cool thing about it was a lot of families volunteer there. So these families were, organizing the clothes, and I got the chance to speak with one of them, and I think we have some sound about what they told me.
Awesome.
I came out to volunteer today because this was a tradition that we did in my family when I was a child. And so now that I have children, I wanted to introduce them to volunteerism. Now that my daughters are old enough, I have a 6-year-old and I have an 8-year-old, and I just thought it would be a good opportunity for them to also have a piece of some things that I did in my childhood as well. And this day is so important to me and my family. Like I said, I have daughters. They are learning about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for the very first time, and just seeing their excitement around what they've been learning in school really sparked something in me to say, you know what, we should keep this tradition going because it's just so important to our community. It's important to our heritage, and it just means a lot for us to continue to put ourselves in a position to give back.
Yeah, so that woman, Dion Houston, she's been volunteering on MLK Day her entire life. And so now she brought her family to do the same. So it was really sweet.
I love when, and maybe you guys feel the same way, I just love to see when a family volunteers together and it's genuine help, and it starts really young, and it's, hey, we're going to do all of this together, and it's not going to just be about, we're not going to just talk the talk, we're going to also walk the walk and see the difference we can make in our communities when we do give back.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said, honestly. She was like, I want my kids to know that, like, they can give back and they can do something. And she also told me, like, it's more than just, like, doing something to feel good about yourself, but doing something for others and just teaching. That's such an important, like, life lesson.
Yeah. Don't do it for the accolades or the awards. Truly do it in service of others.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it definitely meant a lot, especially with the holiday. It was just a really sweet event, and I'm happy I could go.
Awesome. Tara, thanks so much for letting us know about it. And Christian City's the nonprofit. It sounds like they help people of all age groups, backgrounds, and I'm sure you can find more about them online. But do you know, do they take volunteers or donations?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because they are looking for volunteers.
Okay.
They need volunteers all the time. They have a website. Obviously, you can go to that and sign up. They really need help. So.
Awesome. Tara, thank you so much. I appreciate your time and letting us know what happened today here in Fulton County. Guys, we're going to move on. I want to move to an international story as it unfolds in Spain. Just tragic, but I want to keep you updated on what's happening here because so many are talking about this. We know that 39 people are confirmed dead at least, and more than 150 others hurt after a high-speed train crash in southern Spain. Rescue crews at this point are still searching for survivors, and this happened Sunday. A train was traveling from Malaga in southern Spain to the capital city of Madrid, and that train somehow went off the rails, jumped the track, and slammed into the train cars. Hundreds of first responders are now deployed, but the search and rescue efforts have been slowed down by that terrain where the crash happened, and you can kind of see why. There's some steep rocks and slopes on either side of those tracks. Officials say they do not know what caused this collision. They know that it's extremely strange because it happened on a straight stretch of track, and railway experts are very surprised surprised at how this happened. One Spanish official says the magnitude of the tragedy is unthinkable. The investigation does continue, and the government says the victims and their families will have the help that they need. But in the meantime, the Spanish Train Drivers Union says it warned rail operators that they warned rail operators last August that there was severe wear and tear on the tracks exactly where this incident happened. So it seems that the union representing the Train Drivers Union there in Spain is pointing out that the tracks where this was, wear and tear could have caused this incident. That is not confirmed, and as soon as we get any new information about the cause of the crash, I will let you know right here on Fox Local. But in the meantime, I want to let you know about another situation unfolding in Karachi, Pakistan, the capital city there, because a fire has killed 23 people at a shopping plaza, and you can see just the aftermath of this massive fire. Absolutely heartbreaking because 23 people are dead, and right now the fear is that that death toll could rise as rescuers try to find more people. They're working to recover bodies from this heavily damaged area and building. Firefighters put out the fire on Sunday, roughly 24 hours after that fire started at that shopping plaza. Family members of the missing have waited outside the burned building trying to find information about their loved ones, hoping to hear good news. Local officials say that they would give 10 million rupees, equivalent to $36,000 in compensation to the families of every person who died in the fire. But this is an ongoing situation, and as I get any new info, I will keep you updated right here. But coming up, as we continue, we're going to continue with our service opportunities and ways our community is reflecting on service this MLK Day. So we're going to check in with our Chris Rosenthal on how those in Lawrenceville did just that, coming up next. Welcome in, you guys. I'm Ariel Onstead. It's great to have you here streaming with us on our MLK Day and our day. Chris, great to see you. Looks cold out there, but it seems like the chilly temperatures didn't keep Gwinnett County from making the most of the holiday.
No, it certainly didn't. You know, this afternoon they held that parade that started at This started at the Gwinnett County Justice Center and ended up here at the Central Gwinnett High School, where they had a little bit of festivities here they're just wrapping up. But there were lots of people lined up along the parade route this afternoon to watch this parade as it wound its way through Lawrenceville and downtown Lawrenceville. Weather didn't keep them away. In fact, this is the 26th year that the United Ebony Society has done this parade, and last year they actually did have to cancel because it was so cold. Of course, the theme for the parade this year was Mission Possible 2, building community and uniting the nation in a non-violent way. Now, there was a little bit of a ceremony before the parade, and the chairwoman of the Gwinnett County Board of Commissioners, Nicole Love Hendrickson, gave a little speech and just talked about the importance of unity.
Showing up for your community isn't about talking the talk. It truly is about walking it. And it also requires compassion, it requires courage, and it requires faith in ourselves and others. And I have so much faith in our Gwinnett community. Just look around you. You are the power this community needs. You each have the talents and perspectives that this world needs to see. You have the ability to build bridges where others see walls. And your actions can lead us closer to a world where we live together in peace and harmony. Now, the reality of leadership is that we often find the strength to encourage others, even on the days we're still looking for our own. It means choosing kindness and heart, even when things feel difficult or scary. But Dr. King's dream taught us a lesson that remains our North Star. The time is always right to do what is right. We don't wait for a better time to be inclusive, and we don't wait for the world to change before we start looking out for our neighbors. As the ceremony comes to a close, our real work begins. Dr. King left us the blueprint, but it's up to us to build.
Yes, a lot of people heard that message today, and again, a lot of people lined the parade route. You had lots of bands. You had some local Gwinnett County bands out here performing, and as well as sororities and fraternity groups and kids and everyone alike. I think they had about 1,500 or so people participating in the parade route itself. So really quite the experience here in Gwinnett County this afternoon.
That's awesome, Chris. You know, I loved especially just the part of her speech where she talked about unity and showing up for your community, even in times when it's not convenient and when we don't feel like it. I think everyone can relate to this idea of wanting a village, but not everyone realizes they've got to be a villager to make that happen. So, you know, it's just nice to hear her talk a little bit about how to build a community and what that can truly mean.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's I think you know what Martin Luther King would have wanted there. So
yeah, Chris, thanks so much for giving us a look at the festivities there in Gwinnett County today. I'm gonna let you get back inside and warm up. I know it's pretty chilly. Thanks for walking around and giving us a look at everything that unfolded. Guys, we're gonna move on because I want to let you know how the service unfolded today at Ebenezer Baptist Church as leaders on both the city, state, and national level came to pay their respects and to speak about how we can move forward practicing nonviolence and advocating for our communities. I'd like to let you listen to Dr. Bernice King. She is the daughter of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and, of course, CEO of the King Center.
Thank you. Now, this is the day that the Lord has made. We ought to all rejoice and be glad in it. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so in this place. Hallelujah. You may be seated. On behalf of the King Center, I welcome you to the 2026 Beloved community commemorative service, I want to thank all of my King Center staff and team and volunteers for all the work they put into bringing forth an extraordinary week of activities, including today's commemorative service and our community service project. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Love you deeply and dearly. Thank you, Ebenezer, for opening your doors, Pastor Warnock, once again to us. We gather in this sacred space again to commemorate the life, the legacy, and the liberating love of my father, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. On what would have been his 97th birthday and the 41st observance of the national holiday, 41 years in. And I dare to say and declare, and we ain't going nowhere. We do so at a time when the world is trembling under the weight of its own contradictions, a time when inhumanity, injustice, and inequity have risen to devastating heights, a time when our nation is fractured by polarization, poisoned by fear, and paralyzed by division. We gather in a moment charged with both peril and promise, a moment when the soul of our nation is crying out, not with a whisper, but with a groan of urgency for healing, for direction, for a way forward that binds our wounds rather than deepens them. We are living in a moral crisis, not symbolic, but so deep. Our humanity is at stake. There is a battle going on between good and evil, and the future of this nation and the world house hangs in the balance. We must decide whether we will continue down the path of fragmentation or rise together into new possibilities of community. But beneath these visible crises lies a deeper affliction, a crisis of conscience and compassion. We scroll through suffering as if flipping through channels. We debate the humanity of our neighbors as if dignity were a commodity. Fear has become the currency of power. Anger is spoken more fluently than love. Hope is fading into a faint echo, and people are losing faith, yes, in institutions, in one another, in themselves, and even in God. We're divided not only by ideology, but by imagination, unable to imagine a future together. This moment demands more than memory. It demands movement. More than admiration, it demands action. More than commemoration, it demands commitment. Because the forces tearing at our shared humanity are not waiting. Nationalism, extremism, and imperialism are not waiting. The erosion of democracy is not waiting. The massacring of civilians is not waiting. Children pulled from rubble in Gaza, Sudan, Congo, Ukraine, and Haiti are not waiting. Oligarchy masquerading as democracy is not waiting. The normalization of dehumanization, disinformation, and violence is not waiting. Wars raging abroad and in our streets are not waiting. Economic inequality widening day by day is not waiting. Climate disasters devastating homes and hearts are not waiting. Human rights norms being ignored or selectively applied are not waiting, so neither can we wait.
You're listening to Dr. Bernice King as she spoke at Ebenezer Baptist Church from the service this morning. We watched this unfold as leaders from across our city, state, and nation attended, many of them sharing their remarks. You can find more about this within the Fox Local app if you'd like to watch or take a deeper look. In the meantime, we're getting ready for our news to begin at 4 o'clock. I'm Ariel Onstott. Thank you so much for streaming with me here on this MLK Day. It's been a pleasure to see you and have you here with us live. The news does continue here shortly.
Thank you.